So joining me once again is Richard Socarides, who you'll remember from his fine work on this show a few minutes ago. And Bachelor number 2 is Rick Unger, Democratic consultant and writer for Forbes.com, who's joining us now. Rick, let me start off. Let me get some backstory here. What's your beef with Glenn Greenwald, and why is he wrong?
Well, I actually do have a beef with Glenn Greenwald, but we'll leave that aside. What amazed me was I woke up this morning and everybody's abuzz with this breaking story. So I go read the breaking story in The Guardian, and I'm going, breaking story? It was a breaking story in 2002.
Yeah.
It was kind of a breaking story again in 2006. And as you know, because I actually sent you the lead from Susan Page's article in U.S. Today in 2006, it was identical.
Yeah.
So, you know, Glenn, who I know fancies himself as the guardian of our liberties, somehow missed the memo that this is very old news. This court order is a rolling court order. It is reapproved every 3 months, and it's been reapproved every 3 months for the past 7 years.
When Saxby Chambliss is showing up defending the president, I mean, Richard, scoop-worthiness aside, is there any validity to the real story here, the idea that doing this stuff is keeping us safer?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that even though, you know, if you follow this closely, you have an idea that some of this may be going on. I think when you know, Americans read that every phone call anybody makes, whether it's in the U.S. or outside the U.S., that a record is kept of that record is shared with the government, and the government keeps those records so that they have a database for all time. And I think that, you know, the additional information this afternoon that the government has to deal with all the internet providers, that the government has access to our emails. I mean, I think that this is really Big Brother, and I think the sweep of this program is very disturbing. And I think, you know, if it were, I mean, you know, if this were being done under a President Romney, you know, most liberals, most progressive in this country would be going crazy.
Yeah.
But now we just, you know, we're leaving it up to the ACLU, and a few people are willing to speak out against it. But actually, I think it's very disturbing.
And Richard makes the real point here, Rick, because, you know, back when Obama signed NDAA, a lot of liberals flipped out, and the president said, "Don't worry, I'll never abuse this." We're like, well, we're not worried about you, but what about President Ted Cruz 10 years from now?
Well, the liberals kind of are going crazy. This is one of these weird times when
the liberals are, the Democrats are,
and the libertarians. The liberals and the libertarians have joined together. The Republicans are going, yay, Obama. I mean, Lindsey Graham actually sat across from the Attorney General this morning and congratulated him for something. It was astounding. But, I mean, the way each person handled it today was hilarious. First, you have Darrell Issa condemning the president for this vast overreaching government. At the very same moment, his co-Republican chairman, Mike Rogers, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, is going, what's the big deal?
Exactly.
We've been doing this for years.
And they seem
by
to
the way,
have told Issa to call off his dogs as the day went by the way. He became much more demure as the afternoon progressed.
Because he's an idiot. He talks before he even knows what he's supposed to say.
But he's a useful idiot in that his job is to get the GOP base organized and angry and outraged over stuff. And so what does it say that we're hearing all this hype about IRS and Benghazi, where horrible things may have happened, but they're not real scandals? However, the things that are scandals, like AP and especially, Richard, this, seems to be just brushed aside.
Yeah, and I wouldn't really call this a scandal because it's a, you know,
it's legal.
Well, it may be legal, but it's really shocking that all three branches of government over a long period of time have conspired to do this. I mean, we should not. This is not something you can blame on President Obama or on the White House, but this is, you know, this is what has become par for the course for the government. And the executive branch is complicit. The executive branch runs it. The judiciary is complicit in it.
Exactly.
And the Congress is complicit in it. And this is not what we are about in this country. This is not what we should be doing. Yeah, tracking our citizens.
When you've got Saxby Chambliss showing up saying, "Yeah, we knew about this. No biggie."
It's great to get this open to debate again. It absolutely deserves it. I've never been comfortable with it. I don't think you are, Richard. I know you aren't. But to do it in this way just bugs me. Well, it just bugs me. Do it as a sensible conversation without all the silly politics and without Glenn writing that this is a big breaking story. Just this conversation should be going on every day for the past 7 years.
Well, you remember before 9/11, when you were going to board a plane, you had the 3 questions you had to answer.
Right.
And George Carlin had a bit where he said that the 3 questions in airport security exist for one reason: to give white people the illusion of safety. After 9/11, is this going to be the new normal forever? Was that the catalyst to say that you will never have any electronic privacy ever again on your computer or your phone?
I don't think it's going to be the new normal, and I think it's very interesting that, you know, a lot of these internet companies, the story that's breaking this afternoon on the internet snooping by the government, and all the internet companies were partners in this program with the government. Well, Apple, late this afternoon, just as I was coming on, issued a statement, and they say they're not participating. They haven't participated. So I think
there's actually a reason that we should mention. You're right, but this is actually kind of old news too. The difference is people forget that Congress legislated immunity for the telephone companies back in 2003, right? Because people wanted to sue them when they found out they were turning over their records. That immunity has not been legislated for internet companies yet. That's why
But yet some of the internet companies
are participating.
Some are participating, and some have chosen to say no.
no.
Well, so I mean that's going to be a big issue, right? I mean, if private companies now get to decide and are kind of making a voluntary choice about whether or not to provide
and they have immunity,
this data
so what do they
to the
care?
government, well, not the internet companies.
Well, not yet they don't. But trust me, as soon as
this is going to be a big issue.
I predict it might not be a big issue until they have access to people's porn, and then you'll see Americans wake up.
Well, they do.
Well, they do.
Now they do.
Well, I guess they do. But
they know what you're saying.
So then, let me ask you. Well, that's great for all our terrified males in the audience. Do you think that the president, however, is doing this just because of politics, or is he doing it because he really believes this is crucial to American safety and saving lives?
Well, I think that. You know, I mean, I take him at his word, and I think that when you're in that office, and I've seen this, I saw this when I worked for President Clinton for 7 or 8 years he was president. When you're in that office, there is a responsibility that falls on you, and when Americans are in harm's way, and when we have these terror attacks, I mean, you're the president, you want to do everything to protect every American life. But I think that you constantly have to balance these interests. I thought, for instance, the president's remarks recently about the war on terror and how we can't constantly have a war on terror were you know, theoretically that was great rhetoric, but now he has to put it into place as policy.
Get the last word, Rick.
Richard's right, but it's interesting to watch the evolution of Barack Obama. When he first announced his candidacy to be president, he was dead set against this. Made speeches in the Senate.
Seeing that footage all day on the news.
When he got nominated, there was actually a vote that followed, and he started to move. He actually voted for an amended version. When he got into office, obviously he decided that this was something we needed. So I think you're right. When you get into the job, things change.
And as a senator, he voted for Patriot Act 2, let's not forget.
Yes,
so I want to thank NewYorker.com writer Richard Socarides for joining us once again. Always a great pleasure. And I want to thank a little bit less Forbes.com writer Rick Unger. No, you're a great guest. We should have you on more often, Rick.
You think so?
Yeah, let's get you and Glenn Greenwald.
Can we do 5 nights
sometime.
a week, you think?
I can't even do 5 nights a week anymore. All right, great things happened in Minnesota today. But crazy WTF things happened in Minnesota as well. That's coming up next.